So, Kat, do you have an example to share of an absolutely stellar example of an educational game? And is it possible that you could talk about it and maybe we could link to something that we could look at and see how it works or what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I'm a little bit biased
Mhm.
because both of these games I am on the advisory board, so I just want to make that clear to everyone. But the first game that I wanted to recommend is actually a series done by WNET or PBS, and it is, or Channel 13, depending on where you are, and it's called the Mission US series. And it's a series of games that take middle school students and high school students into the perspective of a person from history. So it's an 18-year-old, 19-year-old who, for example, is a new immigrant to New York City, and you're walking in the footsteps that she's taken, and you're understanding what was going on in the early 1900s. You're engaging in events leading up to the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire and what might have led to that. You are seeing protests in terms of how people were treated in their workplace and what conditions might have led to changes in those policies more widely. And so but it's like it would be really boring if I just told you about the fire. You'd be like, all right, there was a fire. If I just told you about immigrants coming, you'd be like, all right, that's nice. But if you actually get to be that person for a few days, right, and you get to see what she's experienced and learn about the interpersonal dynamics around that, it makes you feel more personally connected to a historical moment and makes you feel like, wow, this matters to me. And this is a person that I understand who is just like me, and they are making their way in the world that they have. And so we don't normally get to inhabit history in our everyday lives, but games let us do that, and that's really exciting. Something else that I really like about the team there is that they do really try to reflect on things and how even historical moments might change over time. They have a module that focuses on enslavement in America and how they represent that has changed over time as well, based on how people respond to their modules. So they really encourage teacher feedback. They work with a lot of teachers, and they they really test a lot with their audience and with the educators that support it. And so I think that's really, really strong in that they don't just think about the game, but they think about the cultural context, they think about the classroom context, they really think about the whole ecosystem and how the game is being used. A second game that I highly recommend is Quandary, which is a game that teaches ethics and ethical deliberation and argumentation. It really gets you again in the role of someone who has to make really difficult choices for a new society. Instead of history, it's kind of futuristic. In this instance, you're going to a brand new society on the planet called Braxos, and you have to create this new society and really think through the ethics of different situations. For example, there's a predator called the Schrier who is affecting the sheep population on this planet, and you have to decide, do I trap it? Do I poison it? Do I do nothing? And you have to make really hard choices. And what's nice about the game is that you don't just make the choice and then move on. It's actually more about how you make the choice and the process of making that decision. And so you actually get points for how you evaluate evidence and how you take on different perspectives and how you incorporate that into your solution rather than the solution itself. So I think that's also a really strong game. What's really great about both of these games, all free and online for anybody to use anytime.